You're listening to Your Magical Midlife, the podcast for women 40 and up. I'm Kate Higgins. I'm a licensed clinical social worker turned coach, and I'm here to be your guide, your friend, and your mentor. I'm here to light your way into your most magical midlife. Let's dive in. Wiley Women is a wellness brand that wants you to live your best midlife. Developed by a naturopath, they offer tinctures, supplements, and drink mixes. Wiley uses plant medicine and clinical studies to demystify and embrace the hormonal powers and hidden complexities of grown women from the inside. Female formulated and female founded. Plus, they offer free shipping and easy returns. I love the Unworried tincture, which has bacopa, holy basil, passion flower, and reishi. It helps calm my body and stops the spinouts. It reduces jitters and lightens my mood. Go to www.wileywomen.com and use code KATEH2O at checkout to get 20% off. That's www.wileywomen.com and use code KATEH2O for 20% off. What's your relationship to risk-taking behavior? Are you someone who flies by the seat of your pants, or are you somebody who is exactly where you knew you would be from the time that you were in high school? Are you somebody who has pivoted multiple times? Or did you dream of the moment that you are living in right now? I'm reflecting a lot about riskiness and risk-taking behavior since I left my job in August. It's been 6 months since I took a voluntary layoff. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about how that happened. So much came up for me. Honestly, I had been dreaming of leaving that job for years, if I am frank with myself. And it's not that the job was terrible. It's not that the job was poorly paying. It was actually an easy job that paid me more money as a social worker than I thought I could make. But it was boring. It was not challenging. I could do the work very easily with not much focus. And I had been doing that job for almost 10 years. And I knew that I was not going to ever be more than the job that I had at that company. And I knew that because they flat out told me. They flat out told me during a review that I had, an annual review I had, when I asked, what is the next step that I need to take in order to advance? And truthfully, I asked that question more out of ego than out of desire to move up the corporate ladder at that job. I consider myself a very good clinician. I have tons of experience with people who are in severe psychiatric crisis. I handled a lot of things when I worked in an academic counseling center in an on-call role, where I would handle crises in the middle of the night, often using just my own clinical judgment without consulting anyone, because they hired me to make those judgment calls when I worked in that job. Prior to that, I worked in a psychiatric emergency room. Prior to that, I worked on an adolescent psychiatric unit. Prior to that, I worked on a mobile crisis team. So I have very well-honed skills in making clinical determinations. So in my head, I looked around at the people I worked with, and I had a lot more actual hands-on experience than the majority of the people who were my colleagues. So I thought naturally I should be a supervisor, a team lead, a manager, something. But and also I did a lot of the actual work on my team. I was a very high performer, and they told me that all the time. A few years earlier, they had instituted a tracking system that they were able to see how many reviews we all did on any given day. And when they pulled up the dashboard to discuss this with me during a monthly meeting with my supervisor, it came to light that I was doing 100 more reviews than anybody else on my team a month. So every week I did 25 more reviews than anybody else on my team, which means I did 5 more reviews a day on average than anybody else I worked with. So I didn't understand, and it baffled me as to what I was missing in order to be rewarded in a promotion, a merit raise, something like that. They did give me a handful of small merit raises just to kind of keep me quiet, I think. But overall, the message I got was that it didn't matter how hard I worked. I was going to stay exactly where I was. And this isn't the first time I heard that message. I got that message actually at my academic job when I was on call for the counseling and crisis services. I was essentially told when I tried to leave that job that they couldn't take me off call because the director actually said to me that the nights I was on call were the only nights that she slept soundly. So she couldn't give me any kind of other job there. And so that's when I walked from that job and took a job at a hospital that closed within 6 months of me taking it. But that's another non-related issue. So when I was told at my last corporate job that it didn't matter that I did 25 more reviews a week, that wasn't what they were basing the eligibility to be promoted on, I took that to heart and tucked that information into my back pocket and prayed for a layoff. So fast forward 2 or 3 years from there, we did get the message that there was a layoff coming. And when I was informed that I was to breathe a sigh of relief, I was not selected to be laid off. I was selected to stay in my current role. I had a lot of feelings about that because I had just been praying and meditating and visualizing myself leaving that job with a severance package and going on my merry way and launching my own business. That was my dream, my vision, my goal, what I was trying to manifest. And when I actually manifested security, that was sort of a shaking up of my belief system that I could manifest this severance package, this layoff, and freedom from my last job. So a couple of days after we had the layoff meeting, we got an email saying that one of my colleagues who also was on the saved team has decided to leave. And that is honestly what shook me up, left me quaking in my boots like, this is an option? You mean I can actually raise my hand and potentially get a severance package and leave? Am I brave enough to take this big leap? And I did. I called HR the next day after a long conversation with a very dear friend of mine who is an HR person elsewhere. I crafted my little speech. I asked for what I wanted. And so quickly, they let me go with the severance package. Like, the words weren't even completely out of my mouth when the HR person said, I'll speak to legal. I'll see if this is possible, which I knew it was because my coworker had negotiated this for herself. And half an hour later, she called me back. I was standing in the upstairs cafeteria portion of a bodega in New York City because I had been en route to go see my dad, and I'd made a stopover to see one of my college besties who is an HR person. She just so happened to, that all happened to line up there. And she said that legal had accepted my offer and that they were offering me this severance package, and my last day would be that Friday. And I think it was Tuesday or Wednesday when I got this news. And I wasn't scheduled to be back to work until Thursday or Friday of that week. I can't even remember. That's what's crazy, is I can't remember what day I came back to work and what day it was my last day. It was either I came back to work on Thursday and my last day was Friday, or I actually came back to work on my last day. I think I came back to work on Thursday and my last day was Friday. I'm pretty sure. So I took the big leap. I put all my chips on myself. I hedged my bets and I left. And 6 months out, I think it's the best decision I've ever made. Now, there are definitely days where I wake up in the middle of the night and I cannot believe that I left a job with health insurance and a 401k with a matching, 6% and paid time off and routine and security and safety and knowing what to expect and knowing what my day is going to be like and knowing what my week is going to look like and knowing what my life is going to look like and knowing that, I have to put in for my summer vacation by this date or all the weeks will be taken, and knowing that every year I'm going to have to muscle my way in to get time off so I can be with my dad on Christmas / his birthday, because every year that was a struggle. I just knew I couldn't do it anymore. And I really felt divinely led to make this big leap. Because if not now, when? I am 53. At the time I was 52. And honey, we are running out of time to put all our chips on ourselves. If not now, when? When are you going to be brave enough to decide that you don't have any more time to wait? To decide that now, today, is the day that you are going to choose your own happiness. Today is the day that you're going to take that money out of your bank account and invest in going back to school, or invest on taking that trip that you've been dreaming of, or invest in that program that you see online that you desperately want to take, whether that be a writing program or a coaching program or another degree or an art class. We don't have endless time to sit on the sidelines of our own life and just keep clocking in and clocking out and waking up and going to bed and being in a pattern. Now is the time for us to place all our bets on ourselves. Now is the time to choose our own adventures. We've earned it, and it is time. And even if it is terrifying, it is better to be terrified than to be stuck. It is better to shake your life up than to sit and suffer. I couldn't sit there any longer with the resentment of Just be a good little worker. We'll pat you on the head every year. We'll give you your 3% raise. We'll give you your bonus, probably. But we're never going to move you up. We don't value your skills. We don't value your knowledge. We have our little slot for you that you fit in. Just be grateful and keep going. That wasn't enough for me anymore. There was so much more that I want to be doing. This past weekend, I led my first in-person workshop here in Sarasota. And while I was in the moment, it felt like magic. It felt like, finally, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm not supposed to be typing at my desk. I'm supposed to be doing this. And every time I put myself out there in my truest self as a coach, as a guide for women in midlife, every time I record a podcast, every time I coach somebody, every time I lead a workshop, every time that I am in my authenticity, in myself, and in my adventure, I feel so alive, as opposed to the 10 years that I sat there typing and waiting for my next vacation day. So what I'm hoping is that this will inspire you to do the thing. Do the thing that scares you. Do the thing that challenges you. Do the thing that makes your heart race. Do the thing that you've been dreaming of, wishing for, planning on. Someday is today, my friend. I remember many years ago, I desperately, God knows why. I mean, I know why now, but at the time people told me I was crazy. I desperately wanted to skydive. It just seemed like something that you should do. And I could not find a single person who would do it with me. People thought I was out of my mind. My partner was like, there is no way I am doing that. And it was only, of all people, my dad, in his late 70s, was like, yeah, why not? I'll do it. Sure. And I think the only reason that I was able to do it and he was able to do it was because we didn't think too much about it. We got the ticket. We drove out there. We signed away our lives. We got in the dumb prop plane and we allowed ourselves to be tethered to another human being who we had to assume was invested in staying alive. And we didn't psychoanalyze it. We just did it. And it was spectacular. Now, I know that that is not for everybody, and leaving your corporate job is not for everybody. I have the luxury of not having to financially support a child, right? I'm not paying for anybody's college, so okay. But also, I don't have a ton of money in the bank. I took this leap relying on my own creativity. I took the leap out of the plane relying on some guy who does this a couple hundred times a week. Was it crazy? Possibly. Was it crazy to quit my job? Possibly. But you know what? I landed that time, and I know I'm going to land this time. And I want to inspire you to take a small risk this week. It is leap year. It's a leap year. Today, the day that this podcast will be released, is a leap day. So I want you to think about a risk you can take, and I want you to take it. So let's pull a card. It would be amazing if we get the Fool, but I don't think that I'm that magical that I can conjure up the Fool. And I am going to be honest, and even though you can't see me, I really am shuffling. And I really am just going to pull whatever card comes up and interpret it as far as this episode is concerned. So the card for this episode is the Five of Wands. The Five of Wands, actually this is pretty relevant. The Five of Wands is about facing the dragon, feeling the intimidation, and going into battle anyway. So whatever it is that you are afraid to confront, afraid to take the leap on, you got this, and now is your time. And I will talk to you next Thursday. Take care of yourself. Thanks again for listening to Your Magical Midlife. I'm Kate Higgins, your host. You can follow me on Instagram at Your Magical Midlife. You can check out my offerings on my website, www.yourmagicalmidlife.com. I offer one-to-one coaching, group coaching, retreats, a blog, and this podcast. Please remember to like, rate, and review to keep me in those algorithms. Have a great week. See you soon.